Get out of my daughter's life, you worthless piece of trash. The words exploded across the living room like a thunderclap, followed immediately by the sharp crack of a hand against flesh. Marcus stumbled backward, his cheek burning from the force of his father-in-law's slap, his eyes wide with shock. Hello guys. Welcome to Stories by Stoner. Before we dive into this explosive story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if your in-laws humiliated you like this? Now, let's get into it. The family meeting had been called suddenly. Just 2 hours ago, Sandra's mother had phoned demanding Marcus come to their house immediately. When he arrived at the elegant townhouse in the upscale Victoria Island neighborhood of Lagos, he found Sandra sitting stiffly on the cream-colored sofa, her eyes red and swollen. Her parents stood like sentries on either side of her, and beside them sat a young man Marcus had never seen before, dressed in an expensive-looking navy suit, gold watch glinting on his wrist. "Sit down," Mr. Benjamin Okafor commanded, pointing to a chair positioned awkwardly in the center of the room, facing everyone like an accused criminal in a courtroom. Marcus had sat, his heart pounding, searching Sandra's face for answers. They'd been married for 3 years. Why wouldn't she look at him? "We've made a decision about Sandra's future," Mrs. Grace Okafor announced, her arms crossed over her chest, her expensive lace boubou rustling as she shifted her weight. "This marriage was a mistake from the beginning. We should never have allowed our daughter to marry someone so beneath her station." Marcus felt the words like physical blows. Beneath her station? "Mrs. Okafor, I love Sandra. I've worked hard to provide." "Provide?" Mr. Okafor laughed bitterly. "You call that tiny salary providing? You work as some junior accountant, barely making enough to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, this young man," he gestured toward the stranger, "this is Dennis Williams. He's a rising executive, driving a Range Rover, living in Lekki Phase 1. He can give Sandra the life she deserves." Marcus's stomach twisted as realization dawned. He turned to Sandra. "Sandra, what is this? What's happening?" She finally met his eyes, and what he saw there broke something inside him. Pity mixed with contempt. "Marcus, I'm sorry. But my parents are right. I can't keep living this way, pretending we're happy when we're barely surviving. Dennis can offer me more." "More?" Marcus stood up, his voice shaking. "I've given you everything I have. I've loved you with everything in me. Love doesn't pay bills." Mrs. Okafor snapped. "Love doesn't buy designer clothes or send children to international schools." "We don't even have children yet," Marcus protested. "Exactly," Mr. Okafor said coldly. "Which makes this easier. Dennis here has been courting Sandra for the past 2 months. 2 months. Marcus felt dizzy. And they've decided to move forward together. Which brings us to the house." Mr. Okafor's face hardened into granite. "That house you and Sandra are living in? We own it. I bought it for my daughter. And now, I'm taking it back." The room spun around Marcus. The modest 2-bedroom house in Surulere had been a wedding gift from the Okafors, or so he'd thought. He'd spent 3 years maintaining it, painting it, making it a home. "You're taking the house," Marcus repeated slowly, trying to process. "That's right. And Dennis will be moving in with Sandra immediately." Mr. Okafor extended his hand. "So hand over the keys. Now." Marcus looked at Sandra, his wife, the woman he'd pledged his life to, hoping she would speak up, defend him, remember their vows. But she just looked away, her hand subtly moving closer to Dennis's on the sofa. "No," Marcus said quietly. "What did you say?" Mr. Okafor's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I said no. Sandra is my wife. We took vows." That's when the slap came. Hard, vicious, meant to humiliate. Marcus's head snapped to the side, and he tasted blood where his tooth had cut the inside of his cheek. "I said give me the keys." Mr. Okafor roared, his face purple with rage. "You are nothing. You hear me. Nothing. You've been living off my charity, feeding off my generosity like a parasite. Now get out before I have you thrown out. Marcus stood there, his cheek throbbing, his heart shattered into a million pieces. He looked at each of them in turn. Sandra, who couldn't meet his eyes, Mrs. Okafor, whose face showed only disgust, Dennis, who wore a small, triumphant smile, and Mr. Okafor, still breathing heavily from his outburst. Slowly, deliberately, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his keyring. He removed 2 keys, the house keys, and held them up. These are what you want. His voice was eerily calm now, empty of emotion. Yes. Now hand them over and get out of our sight. Marcus looked at the keys in his hand for a long moment. Then he looked at Dennis Williams. Really looked at him for the first time. There was something familiar about him, though Marcus couldn't quite place it. You're an executive? Marcus asked Dennis directly. Dennis straightened, puffing out his chest. Senior Operations Officer at Titan Holdings Corporation. I manage 3 departments, oversee 50 employees, and pull in 7 figures annually. Marcus nodded slowly. Titan Holdings. Impressive. You wouldn't know anything about it, Dennis said with a condescending smile. It's one of the largest conglomerates in West Africa. Way above your level. Marcus placed the keys in Mr. Okafor's outstretched hand. Congratulations on your promotion, Sandra. I hope he makes you happy. He turned toward the door, moving like a man in a dream. That's it. Mrs. Okafor called after him, surprise in her voice. No begging. No crying. Marcus paused at the doorway, his hand on the handle. He didn't turn around. Some things, he said softly, aren't worth begging for. Then he walked out into the humid Lagos evening, leaving behind the only woman he'd ever loved and the family that had just destroyed him. What none of them knew, what none of them could possibly know, was that Marcus wasn't leaving empty-handed. He was leaving with his dignity, his secrets, and a plan that would change everything. Because while they saw a poor junior accountant, the truth was far different. And when that truth came out, they would all realize their mistake. What do you think Marcus should do next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. Marcus walked for 20 minutes through the darkening Lagos streets before he finally stopped. His legs had carried him on autopilot to a quiet corner near the waterfront, where expensive yachts bobbed gently in their moorings and the lights of the city reflected off the black water. He stood there, staring at nothing, his hand unconsciously touching his still-burning cheek. 3 years. 3 years of love, devotion, sacrifice, all reduced to nothing in a single evening. The slap still echoed in his mind, but it wasn't the physical pain that hurt. It was the contempt in their eyes, the disgust in Sandra's voice, the casual cruelty of people who truly believed he was beneath them. His phone buzzed. He pulled it out mechanically and saw dozens of missed calls and messages. But none from Sandra. Not a single one. Instead, there was a message from his assistant, Jennifer. Sir, the board meeting has been moved to 9 a.m. tomorrow. Also, the contract with the Johannesburg investors needs your signature. Should I bring the documents to your residence? Marcus stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, No. I'll come to the office tonight. I need to work. Work. Yes, work would help. Work always helped. He walked another block to where he'd parked his car, not in front of the Okafor's house, of course. They would have had questions about the sleek black Mercedes S-Class. So he'd parked it 3 streets away, as he always did when visiting Sandra's parents, and taken a taxi for the final stretch. The car's leather interior enveloped him like a familiar embrace as he slid into the driver's seat. He sat there for a moment, his hands on the steering wheel, and allowed himself exactly 60 seconds to feel the pain, to acknowledge what had been ripped away from him. Then he started the engine and drove toward the towering glass building in the heart of Lagos Island, the headquarters of Titan Holdings Corporation. The night security guard snapped to attention as Marcus's car pulled into the underground executive parking garage. Good evening, sir. We weren't expecting you tonight. Evening, Samuel, Marcus said, managing a slight smile. Just need to catch up on some work. The private elevator took him directly to the top floor, the 42nd floor, where the executive offices occupied a space that offered breathtaking views of the Lagos skyline. His office took up the entire eastern corner, floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides, minimalist modern furniture, and a desk made of imported Brazilian rosewood. On the wall behind his desk, in sleek chrome letters, was the title he'd worked 15 years to earn. Marcus Johnson, founder and CEO, Titan Holdings Corporation. He'd built this empire from nothing. Started with a single computer repair shop when he was 19, grew it into an IT services company, then expanded into real estate, manufacturing, import-export, and technology. Titan Holdings now employed over 8,000 people across 5 countries and generated annual revenues in the billions. And not a single soul in Sandra's family knew. When he'd met Sandra 4 years ago at a friend's wedding, he'd been immediately captivated by her beauty, her laugh, her warmth. He'd introduced himself simply as Marcus, a guy who worked in accounting, which wasn't technically a lie. He did work in accounting. He just happened to own the entire company. He'd wanted someone who would love him for himself, not his money. After watching too many relationships crumble under the weight of wealth and suspicion, he decided to test Sandra differently. He'd rented a modest apartment, driven an ordinary car when they dated, lived simply. And she'd said yes when he proposed. She'd said she didn't care about money, that love was enough. For 3 years, he'd believed her. But her parents had made things difficult from the start. They'd questioned his job, his prospects, his ability to properly provide for their daughter. He'd endured their criticisms silently, thinking that eventually, they'd see his character, his devotion, his work ethic. He'd planned to reveal the truth on their 5th anniversary. A grand surprise, the unveiling of the real Marcus Johnson, the man who could give Sandra anything she desired. He'd imagined her shocked delight, her parents' embarrassed apologies. But tonight had changed everything. His office door opened quietly. Jennifer entered, carrying a leather portfolio and a cup of coffee. Black, no sugar, exactly as he liked it. At 42, Jennifer had been with him for 12 years, rising from executive assistant to chief operating officer. She was one of the few people who knew everything about his double life. "I saw your car," she said softly, setting the coffee on his desk. "What happened?" Marcus took a long sip of coffee before answering. "It's over. Sandra chose someone else. Her parents threw me out." Jennifer's eyes widened. "They what?" "Her father slapped me. Took the house keys. There's another man, apparently, he's been courting her for 2 months." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Dennis Williams. Says he's a senior operations officer here." Jennifer's face went pale. "Dennis Williams? From operations. You know him." "Marcus, Dennis Williams is barely a mid-level coordinator. He works in the shipping logistics department. He's definitely not senior anything, and he certainly doesn't pull in 7 figures annually." Jennifer pulled out her phone, tapping quickly. His salary last year was 85,000 naira monthly. That's barely $1 million annually. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. He lied to them? Completely. He drives a Range Rover, yes, but according to HR, he's 3 months behind on the lease payments. We were about to issue him a warning for financial irresponsibility. Jennifer scrolled through more information. He's also been flagged twice for inflating his credentials on LinkedIn and at business networking events. So Dennis Williams was a fraud. A man living beyond his means, pretending to be something he wasn't, and Sandra's parents had fallen for it completely. The irony was almost funny. Almost. "There's more," Jennifer said carefully. "Dennis put in a request last week for emergency leave, 2 weeks starting next Monday. The reason given was family obligations." "Let me guess," Marcus said dryly. "Moving into a new house with his new girlfriend?" "Probably." Jennifer hesitated. "What do you want to do?" We could fire him. Or I could have HR audit his expense reports. I'm sure we'd find something. Marcus was silent for a long moment, staring out at the glittering city below. Somewhere out there, Sandra was probably celebrating with Dennis right now, believing she'd traded up, believing she'd escaped a life of poverty for one of luxury. No, he said finally. Don't do anything. Not yet. Marcus. I need time to think, Jennifer. To process this. And he paused. I need to decide who I want to be when this is over. The man who takes revenge? Or the man who walks away? Jennifer studied his face. You're too good for them, you know that? Am I? Marcus touched his cheek again. I lied for 3 years. I pretended to be someone I wasn't. Maybe this is karma. You wanted to be loved for yourself, not your bank account. That's not a crime. No. But it's not a shield against heartbreak either. Marcus turned back to his desk. Go home, Jennifer. It's late. I'll see you at the board meeting tomorrow. Will you be okay? Eventually. He managed a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I always am. After Jennifer left, Marcus sat in his office for hours, working through contracts and financial reports, letting the familiar rhythm of business numb the pain. But around midnight, he found himself opening his desk drawer and pulling out a small velvet box. Inside was a diamond necklace, custom-made, worth more than the house Sandra's parents had just reclaimed. He'd bought it 6 months ago, planning to give it to Sandra on their anniversary along with the revelation of his true identity. Now it sat in his hand, glittering mockingly under the office lights. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Sandra. I packed your clothes. They're in boxes by the gate. Pick them up tomorrow. Don't make a scene. Don't make a scene. After 3 years of marriage, that's what she had to say. Not an apology, not an explanation, not even a goodbye. Just instructions for retrieving his belongings like he was a stranger. An inconvenience to be managed. Marcus set down the necklace and picked up his phone. He typed slowly, carefully. Okay. 1 word. That's all she deserved now. But as he hit send, something hardened inside him. A decision crystallizing like ice forming on water. He wasn't going to beg. He wasn't going to cry or plead or try to win her back. Instead, he was going to do exactly what they thought he couldn't do. Move on. Build a new life. Find someone who would love the real him, all of him, wealth and all. And when the truth eventually came out, as truth always did, he would be long gone. Happy. Successful. Surrounded by people who valued him. That would be his revenge. Not destruction, but indifference. Not anger, but success. Let them have their fraudulent executive and their petty prejudices. Marcus Johnson would be just fine. Better than fine. He would be free. Do you think Marcus should reveal his identity now, or wait? What would you do? Drop your comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. 3 months passed like a slow healing wound. Marcus threw himself into work with an intensity that worried even Jennifer. He attended board meetings, closed deals in 3 countries, and expanded Titan Holdings into new markets. The company thrived. Marcus functioned. But he didn't truly live. Until one rainy Tuesday morning in October. Marcus had developed a new routine, stopping at a small coffee shop called Bean and Soul in Victoria Island before heading to the office. It was quiet, unpretentious, the kind of place where nobody recognized him as the billionaire CEO. Just another customer in a well-cut suit grabbing his morning coffee. He was standing in line, scrolling through emails on his phone, when he heard a crash behind him. A woman had dropped her entire tray, coffee splashing across the floor, pastries scattered like casualties of a small war. She stood frozen, staring at the mess, her eyes welling with tears. I'm so sorry, she whispered to the annoyed barista. I'm so clumsy, I'll clean it up, I'll pay for everything. That's the 2nd cup you've dropped this week, the barista said sharply. We can't keep giving you free replacements. The woman's face flushed with embarrassment. She was beautiful, tall and graceful despite the current disaster, with warm brown skin and natural hair pulled back in a simple bun. She wore a nurse's uniform under a rain-dampened jacket, and her hands trembled as she bent to pick up the fallen items. Marcus found himself moving before he'd made a conscious decision. "I'll cover it," he said, stepping forward. "And get her another coffee, whatever she was having. Plus one of those almond croissants." The woman looked up at him, surprise flickering across her face. "You don't have to." "I know." Marcus smiled, his first genuine smile in months. "But I want to." Bad mornings happen to everyone. 5 minutes later, they were sitting at a corner table, rain drumming against the windows, 2 fresh coffees steaming between them. "I'm really not usually this disastrous," she said, wrapping her hands around the cup. "I just finished a double shift at the hospital. 26 hours straight. My hands don't quite work properly anymore." "You're a nurse." "Pediatric nurse at General Hospital." She took a sip of coffee and sighed with relief. "We had an emergency last night. Multiple accident victims. Children. I couldn't leave until I knew they were stable." "That's incredibly dedicated. Or incredibly stubborn." She laughed softly, and the sound did something unexpected to Marcus's chest. "My supervisor keeps telling me I need to learn when to go home. But those kids, they need someone who cares." "I'm Marcus," he said, extending his hand. "Isabella." Her handshake was firm despite her exhaustion. "Thank you again for the coffee. And for not letting me die of embarrassment back there." They talked for 20 minutes, Marcus completely forgetting about his morning meetings. Isabella told him about her work, her passion for helping children, her frustration with the hospital's outdated equipment and chronic understaffing. She spoke with her whole body, hands gesturing, eyes lighting up when she discussed a patient's recovery. She didn't ask what he did for work. Didn't seem to care about his expensive suit or watch. She just talked to him like a person, something Marcus hadn't experienced in a long time. "I should let you go," Isabella said finally, glancing at the clock. "You probably have important places to be, and I need to get home before I fall asleep in this chair." "Can I?" Marcus hesitated, surprising himself. "Can I see you again? Maybe dinner? When you're not exhausted from saving lives?" Isabella studied his face for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Caution, maybe, or past hurt. But then she smiled. "Okay. Yes. But nothing fancy, please. I'm a simple woman. I'd be happy with suya and plantain from a roadside vendor." Marcus laughed, really laughed, for the first time since that terrible night at the Okafor's house. "Suya and plantain it is." They exchanged numbers, and Marcus watched her walk out into the rain, something warm and unexpected blooming in his chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the possibility of it. That evening, Marcus found himself in an unfamiliar position, nervous about a date. He'd chosen a popular outdoor spot in Lekki, not too fancy, but nice enough. String lights hung overhead, the smell of grilled meat filled the air, and Afrobeats played softly from speakers hidden in the palm trees. Isabella arrived exactly on time, wearing a simple yellow dress that made her glow in the golden light. No designer labels, no heavy makeup, just natural beauty and a smile that made Marcus forget every rehearsed conversation starter he'd prepared. "This is perfect," she said, settling into her chair. "I was worried you'd ignore my request and take me somewhere with 9 forks per place setting." "I'm a man who listens," Marcus said. Dinner was easy, effortless conversation flowing like old friends reconnecting. Isabella told him about growing up in Enugu, the youngest of 6 children, how she'd fought her way through nursing school while working 3 jobs. She spoke about her dreams of opening a pediatric clinic in underserved communities, her eyes shining with passion. "What about you?" she asked, spearing a piece of plantain. "What do you do?" Here it was, the moment of truth. Marcus had sworn after Sandra that he'd never hide again, Never pretend to be less than he was. But looking at Isabella's open, honest face, he found himself hesitating. I work in corporate management, he said carefully. Business operations, that sort of thing. Not a lie. Just incomplete. Isabella nodded, seeming satisfied. That sounds stable. Good. I dated a guy once who was always chasing get-rich-quick schemes. It was exhausting. You're not interested in wealth? I'm interested in character. Isabella met his eyes directly. Money comes and goes. But who you are when nobody's watching. That's what matters. My father always said, Isabella, marry a man with a good heart. Everything else can be built together. Something twisted in Marcus's chest. Sandra's parents had said the opposite, that everything else mattered more than heart, that wealth and status were the foundations of happiness. Your father sounds like a wise man, Marcus said softly. He was. He passed 3 years ago. Sadness flickered across her face. But his lessons stayed with me. They talked until the restaurant began closing, until the staff started stacking chairs and giving them pointed looks. Marcus drove Isabella home, not to the luxury apartments he'd expected, but to a modest building in Yoba, the kind of place where laundry hung from balconies and children played football in the street. This is me, she said, gathering her purse. Then she paused, her hand on the door handle. Marcus, can I ask you something? Anything. You seem sad. Underneath the smiles. Like you're carrying something heavy. Her eyes were gentle. You don't have to tell me what it is. But I want you to know, whatever it is, it doesn't define you. You're allowed to heal. Marcus felt his throat tighten. How did you? I work with trauma patients every day. You learn to recognize pain, even when people hide it well. She squeezed his hand briefly. Thank you for dinner. And for being kind in the coffee shop. Kindness is rare these days. Then she was gone, disappearing into the building, leaving Marcus sitting in his car feeling more seen than he'd felt in years. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus and Isabella fell into a rhythm. Coffee dates before her shifts. Dinners at small local restaurants. Walks along Bar Beach at sunset. She introduced him to her world, community health fairs where she volunteered, church services at a small parish, family gatherings with her loud, loving siblings. They welcomed him without question, these people who had so little but gave so freely. Isabella's brother, Patrick, was a teacher earning barely enough to survive, but still tutoring neighborhood kids for free. Her sister, Ngozi, was a seamstress who made clothes for women who couldn't afford new ones, accepting whatever payment they could manage, sometimes just a meal or a prayer. It was so different from Sandra's world of status and appearances, of measuring worth by bank accounts and brand names. Here, people measured worth by actions, by character, by how you treated those who could do nothing for you. Marcus found himself changing, softening. The hard edge that had formed after Sandra's betrayal began to smooth out, replaced by something warmer. You make me want to be better, he told Isabella one evening as they sat on her tiny balcony, sharing roasted corn and coconut. You already are better, she said simply. You just forgot for a while. That night, when Marcus drove home to his actual residence, the sprawling estate in Banana Island that Isabella knew nothing about, he stood in his enormous empty house and realized something profound. With Sandra, he'd had everything material and nothing real. With Isabella, he had simplicity and something that felt suspiciously like happiness. But he was still lying to her. Not directly, but by omission. And eventually, that truth would come out. The question was, when? And how? His phone buzzed. A message from Jennifer. Sir, you need to see this. Dennis Williams just posted on social media about his new luxury lifestyle. Thought you should know. Below was a screenshot. Dennis and Sandra, posed in front of the house Marcus had once called home, both dressed in expensive clothes, Dennis's arm around Sandra's waist. The caption read, upgraded in every way. Success is the best revenge. #living my best life #power couple #Titan Holdings. Marcus stared at the image for a long moment. 3 months ago, this would have destroyed him. But now he just felt nothing. Or maybe pity. Because he knew what they didn't. Dennis Williams was drowning in debt, living a lie, and the house they were so proud of was still owned by Sandra's parents, not them. Meanwhile, Marcus had found something real. Something that money couldn't buy. He deleted the screenshot and opened his messages to Isabella instead. "Thank you for tonight. You make everything better." Her response came immediately. "You too. Sweet dreams, Marcus. See you tomorrow." Definitely. Tomorrow. Yes. He could think about tomorrow now. Could plan for a future that didn't hurt. And someday soon, he'd tell Isabella the whole truth. Not because he had to, but because she deserved honesty. But not tonight. Tonight, he'd just hold on to this feeling. This fragile, beautiful thing growing between them. Is Marcus wrong to hide his wealth from Isabella? What do you think he should do? Drop your comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Marcus woke up to 17 missed calls from Jennifer. His heart lurched. 17 calls meant crisis. He dialed back immediately. "Thank God," Jennifer answered on the first ring. "We have a situation. Dennis Williams didn't show up for work yesterday or today. When HR called his emergency contact, they discovered he's been arrested." Marcus sat up straight in bed. Arrested? For what? Fraud. He's been running a side scheme, convincing small business owners that he could get them exclusive contracts with Titan Holdings in exchange for processing fees. He's collected over 2 million naira from at least 8 victims. Jennifer's voice was tight with anger. "The police raided his office yesterday morning. They found forged documents with your signature, fake company letterheads, everything. Marcus, he's been using our company name to scam people." Marcus felt ice water flood his veins. Does the press know? Not yet. But they will soon. "We need to get ahead of this, issue a statement, cooperate fully with the investigation, distance the company from his actions." She paused. "There's more. Sandra Okafor showed up at headquarters this morning, demanding to speak with management. She's claiming we're responsible for her fiancé's legal fees since the alleged crimes occurred while he was our employee." Of course she did. Marcus closed his eyes. "What did you tell her?" "Security escorted her out." "But Marcus, she's going to find out. About you. About everything. Once the investigation goes public and your name appears as CEO in all the official statements." "I know." Marcus rubbed his face. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 48 hours before this hits the media. The police want to interview you today. Standard procedure, verifying that you never authorized Dennis's actions, confirming the signatures were forged. Set it up. And Jennifer? Prepare a full press release. Complete transparency, timeline of Dennis's employment, his actual position, confirmation that he acted without company knowledge or authorization. I want us ahead of this story, not chasing it." After hanging up, Marcus sat in his bedroom, watching the sunrise paint Lagos in shades of gold and pink. Everything was unraveling. The careful separation between his two lives, Marcus the humble boyfriend and Marcus the billionaire CEO, was about to collapse. And Isabella. He had to tell Isabella before she found out from the news. They'd planned to meet for lunch at their usual spot, a small buka near the hospital where Isabella often grabbed food between shifts. Marcus arrived early, rehearsing different versions of the conversation in his head. None of them felt right. Isabella appeared right on time, still in her scrubs, her face lighting up when she saw him. That smile, so genuine, so warm, made what he had to do even harder. "You look stressed," she said immediately, settling into her seat. "Bad day at work." "Isabella, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you from the beginning." Marcus took a deep breath. "I haven't been completely honest about who I am." Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" When I said I work in corporate management, that's true. But it's not the whole truth. He met her eyes directly. I own the company. I'm the founder and CEO of Titan Holdings Corporation. I'm wealthy. Very wealthy. Isabella stared at him, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Why? She finally asked, her voice carefully controlled. Why lie to me? I wasn't trying to lie. Marcus struggled for words. I was married before. 3 years. My wife and her family never knew the truth about my wealth either. I wanted to be loved for myself, not my bank account. But it backfired. They thought I was poor, worthless. Her father slapped me, threw me out, gave my wife to another man. A man who claimed to be wealthy but was actually just a mid-level employee at my own company. Isabella's eyes widened. Dennis Williams? That man all over social media with the luxury posts. You've seen them. Everyone's seen them. He's become a minor celebrity in certain circles, the young executive living large. Isabella leaned back in her chair. So he works for you. Worked. Past tense. He was arrested yesterday for fraud, using the company name to scam people. It's going to be all over the news soon, which means my identity as CEO will be public knowledge. I needed to tell you before you found out from strangers. Isabella was quiet for a long moment, processing. A server brought their food, but neither of them touched it. So your ex-wife, Isabella said slowly, she left you thinking you were poor. For a man who was pretending to be rich. And now that man is in jail. Yes. And you've been hiding your wealth from me for 3 months because you're afraid I'll only want you for your money. I know how it sounds. It sounds, Isabella interrupted, her voice rising slightly, like you don't trust me. Like after 3 months of spending almost every day together, you still think I'm the kind of person who would choose money over character. Isabella, no. I told you about my father, Marcus. About his lessons. I introduced you to my family. People who have nothing but gave you everything. And you still thought I needed to be tested. Her eyes were bright with hurt. What was the plan? Date me for a year? 2 years. Get married and then surprise me on our anniversary. Marcus felt something crack inside him. That's exactly what I was planning with Sandra. Before everything fell apart. I'm not Sandra. Isabella stood up abruptly. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're so damaged from that relationship that you can't see what's right in front of you. Someone who liked you when you bought coffee in a cheap shop. Who was happy eating suya instead of caviar. Who never once asked about your money because I didn't care. Please sit down. Let me explain. I need to think. Isabella grabbed her bag. I have a shift starting in 20 minutes anyway. I can't process this right now. When can I see you again? She paused at the edge of their table. I don't know, Marcus. I need time to figure out if I can trust someone who's been playing a part this whole time. Even if your reasons made sense to you, they feel like betrayal to me. Then she was gone, weaving through the crowded restaurant, leaving Marcus sitting alone with 2 untouched plates of food and the bitter taste of his own mistakes. The next 36 hours were brutal. Marcus gave his statement to the police, confirmed that Dennis Williams had no authority to represent Titan Holdings, provided evidence of the forged signatures. The legal team prepared for the inevitable lawsuits from Dennis's victims. Titan Holdings would compensate them fully, despite having no legal obligation to do so. It's the right thing to do, Marcus told the board. These people were victimized using our company name. We make it right. The press release went out at noon. Within an hour, the story exploded across Nigerian media. Titan Holdings CEO exposes massive fraud scheme by former employee. Marcus's photo, the official one from the company website, appeared on every news outlet. His phone started ringing. Old friends. Business contacts. People he hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanting to reconnect. And then, inevitably, a call from an unknown number. Marcus. Sandra's voice, uncertain and small. Is it true? You're the CEO of Titan Holdings? You own the company. Marcus almost hung up, but something made him answer. Yes. But you were just an accountant. You drove an old car. You lived in that tiny house. The house your parents owned. The house they took back and gave to Dennis Williams, who's now in jail for fraud. Marcus kept his voice flat, emotionless. Did you need something, Sandra? We made a mistake. My parents, they didn't know. If we had known who you really were. That's exactly the point, Marcus cut her off. You should have valued me for who I was, not what I had. And now Dennis, your upgrade, is facing criminal charges. How's that working out for you? Silence. Then, quietly, can we talk? In person. I think we need to discuss. There's nothing to discuss. We're divorced in every way that matters. Sign whatever papers my lawyers send and move on with your life, Sandra. I already have. He hung up before she could respond. 10 minutes later, Jennifer called. Sandra's mother just showed up at reception. She's demanding to see you. Says it's urgent family business. We're not family anymore. Have security remove her if she won't leave voluntarily. Already done. But Marcus. The tabloids are going to love this. Billionaire CEO's secret life, poverty disguise, ex-wife who chose wrong, it's like a movie. Let them write what they want. The truth is out now. For better or worse. Marcus stared out his office window at the sprawling city below. Any word from Isabella? No, sir. I'm sorry. That hurt worse than anything Sandra could say or do. Isabella's silence was deafening, a void where warmth used to be. On the third day, Marcus received a text from Patrick, Isabella's brother. She's been crying. Whatever you did, fix it. She doesn't cry easily. That message propelled Marcus out of his office and into his car. He drove to the hospital, parked in the visitor lot, and waited. For hours he sat there, watching the entrance, until finally Isabella emerged at the end of her shift, exhausted and sad. She saw him immediately. For a moment, he thought she'd turn around and go back inside. But instead, she walked slowly to his car. "Hi," she said through the window. "Hi." Marcus unlocked the passenger door. "Can we talk? Please." Isabella hesitated, then got in. They sat in silence for a minute before she spoke. "I saw the news. All of it. The fraud case, your ex-wife showing up at your office, her mother being escorted out by security. It's everywhere. I know. People at the hospital recognized you from the photos. They asked if I was dating the billionaire CEO. I didn't know what to say." Isabella turned to face him. "Because I realized I don't actually know who you are. The man I've been dating, is he real? Or is he another character you play?" "He's real," Marcus said urgently. "Every moment with you has been real. The only thing I hid was the money. Everything else, how I feel about you, what we talk about, who I am when we're together, that's the real me. The truest version of myself. But you still hid something massive. You still made a choice not to trust me. You're right. And I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry." Marcus reached for her hand, relief flooding through him when she didn't pull away. "I was scared, Isabella. Scared of being hurt again. Scared of being valued for the wrong things. But I should have trusted you. You showed me every day who you are, someone with integrity, compassion, genuine goodness. And I repaid that by keeping secrets." Isabella's eyes were wet. "Do you know what the worst part is? I was falling in love with you. With the man who bought me coffee, who ate street food with me, who sat on my cramped balcony and seemed perfectly happy. And now I don't know if that man exists or if he was just pretending." "He exists," Marcus said fiercely. "I swear to you that man is me. The money doesn't change that. If anything, being with you reminded me of who I wanted to be. Someone who values people over possessions, who finds joy in simple things, who doesn't need luxury to be happy. Then prove it. Isabella pulled her hand back. Not with grand gestures or expensive gifts. Prove it by being honest from now on. Completely honest. No more secrets, no more tests, no more playing roles. I promise. Complete transparency from this moment forward. Isabella wiped her eyes. I need more time, Marcus. I need to process all of this. Who you really are, what this means for us, whether I can be part of your world without losing myself in it. But I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, not yet. Marcus nodded, his heart both breaking and hoping simultaneously. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. However long it takes. She leaned over and kissed his cheek. Brief, soft, almost goodbye. Thank you for coming. For explaining. For being honest now, even if it's late. Then she was gone again, walking across the parking lot to catch her bus home, refusing his offer of a ride. Marcus sat in his car long after she disappeared, wondering if he'd just lost the best thing that had ever happened to him. Wondering if honesty had come too late. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You'll regret embarrassing us. You'll pay for what you did to Dennis. The Okafors. Marcus deleted it without responding. Whatever the Okafors wanted, whatever vengeance Sandra sought, it didn't matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was the woman who just walked away, and whether she'd ever walk back. Do you think Isabella will forgive Marcus? What would you do in her position? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. 2 weeks passed with agonizing slowness. Marcus respected Isabella's request for space, but every day without her felt like walking through fog, going through the motions of life without really living. The Dennis Williams case exploded in the media exactly as Jennifer had predicted. The tabloids had a field day, from rags to riches, the billionaire who lived as a pauper and ex-wife's regret, woman who left CEO for fraudster now begging for second chance. Marcus hated every moment of the publicity. His lawyers worked overtime to keep the most invasive stories at bay, but there was only so much they could do. The narrative had taken on a life of its own. What surprised him was the public reaction. Social media exploded with opinions, mostly in his favor. People praised him for living humbly, for testing true love, for exposing Dennis's fraud. The Okafors, meanwhile, became symbols of greed and poor judgment. Sandra tried calling 43 times. Marcus blocked her number after the 10th attempt. But it was Mrs. Grace Okafor who proved most persistent. Marcus was in a meeting with international investors when Jennifer slipped him a note. Grace Okafor in lobby. Won't leave. Says she'll make a scene if not seen. Your call. Marcus excused himself and took the elevator down. He found Mrs. Okafor in the marble lobby, dressed in expensive traditional attire, her face a mask of forced dignity despite the obvious desperation in her eyes. Marcus, she said, standing as he approached. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. Marcus remained standing, arms crossed. My husband and I. We made a terrible mistake. The words seemed to physically pain her. We misjudged you. Badly. We were blinded by appearances, by Dennis's pretense of wealth. We should have seen your character, your dedication to our daughter. You slapped me, Marcus said flatly. Your husband slapped me in my own house and threw me out like garbage. You told me I was worthless, that I would never be good enough for Sandra. Do you remember that, Mrs. Okafor? She flinched. I remember. And I'm ashamed. We're both ashamed. Are you? Or are you just ashamed that you chose wrong? That the poor man turned out to be a billionaire while your rich executive is a criminal? Both, she admitted quietly. Can you blame us for that honesty? Marcus studied her for a long moment. She looked older than he remembered. The past few weeks had carved new lines around her eyes and mouth. What do you want, Mrs. Okafor? Sandra wants to see you. To apologize properly. And my husband and I would like to make amends. Perhaps we could arrange a family dinner. No. The word came out harder than Marcus intended. There's no going back. Sandra made her choice when she chose Dennis over our marriage. You made yours when you decided money mattered more than character. Those choices have consequences. But surely now that you know we were wrong. You weren't wrong about my bank account. You were wrong about what matters in life. Marcus checked his watch. Your 5 minutes are up. Security will show you out. Wait. Please. Mrs. Okafor's composure cracked. Dennis has left us in financial ruin. He borrowed money from us, from our business accounts, promising investments that never existed. We're facing bankruptcy. Our house, the one we took from you to give to him, we might lose it. And Sandra, she's devastated. Not just about the money, but about losing you. She says she loves you, that she always did. She loved the idea of security, Marcus interrupted. Whether that came from me or Dennis didn't matter, as long as someone could provide the lifestyle she wanted. That's not love, Mrs. Okafor. That's a transaction. And I'm not interested in being someone's backup plan. He turned to walk away, but her voice stopped him. You're right. About everything. Mrs. Okafor's voice shook. I raised my daughter to value the wrong things. I taught her that wealth equals worth, that status matters more than substance. And now she's paying for my mistakes. We all are. Marcus looked back. For the first time, he saw real remorse in her eyes, not for being caught, but for the genuine harm she'd caused. Mrs. Okafor, he said more gently, I'm sorry for your financial troubles. Truly. But I can't fix your family. You need to do that yourselves. Learn the lessons this situation is teaching you. Maybe something good can come from all this pain. Will you at least speak with Sandra? Just once. Give her closure. Marcus hesitated. Part of him wanted to refuse, to let Sandra live with the consequences of her choices. But another part, the part that Isabella had helped him rediscover, knew that healing sometimes required grace, even for those who'd hurt him. One conversation, he agreed finally. But not alone. We'll meet in a public place, for 30 minutes, with Jennifer present. And this doesn't mean reconciliation or forgiveness. It means closure. Understood. Mrs. Okafor nodded, relief washing over her face. Thank you. That's more than we deserve. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at a hotel restaurant, neutral territory. Marcus arrived with Jennifer, who looked ready to physically defend him if necessary. Sandra was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked different, thinner, her designer clothes hanging loosely, expensive makeup unable to hide the shadows under her eyes. She stood when she saw Marcus, her hands twisting nervously. Marcus. Thank you for coming. He sat across from her, Jennifer positioning herself strategically at a nearby table. You have 30 minutes. I don't need that long. Sandra took a shaky breath. I'm not here to ask for another chance or to beg forgiveness I don't deserve. I'm here because I need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry for what I did. For what I chose. You chose a Range Rover and empty promises over 3 years of marriage. I chose status over substance. Appearance over authenticity. Sandra's eyes filled with tears. I chose everything my parents taught me to value, and in doing so, I lost the only man who ever truly loved me. You never asked about my work, Marcus said quietly. In 3 years, you never once visited my office or asked about my day beyond. How was it? You were happy as long as the bills were paid, but you never actually wanted to know me. You're right. I was so focused on what you couldn't give me that I never appreciated what you did give me. Loyalty, patience, genuine affection. You loved me, Marcus. And I treated that love like it was worthless because it didn't come wrapped in luxury. Marcus felt Jennifer's eyes on him from across the room. He took a breath. Why did you really fall for Dennis? Was it just the car and the promises? Sandra wiped her eyes. He paid attention to me, complimented me, made me feel special, desired. You were always so steady, reliable. I took that for granted. I wanted excitement, romance, the feeling of being swept off my feet. Dennis gave me that, or at least the illusion of it. Until the police arrested him. Until everything fell apart, yes. Sandra laughed bitterly. The Range Rover was repossessed. The luxury apartment he showed me? He was just house-sitting for a friend. The expensive dinners? All on credit cards he couldn't pay. And the money he borrowed from my parents, over 5 million naira, gone. Stolen to fund his fake lifestyle. Marcus felt a flicker of pity despite himself. I'm sorry you were deceived. I deceived myself, Sandra corrected. Dennis was a fraud, yes. But I wanted to believe his lies because they were prettier than your truth. That's on me, not him. She reached across the table, stopping just short of touching his hand. I know you've moved on. My mother told me about the woman, the nurse. I'm happy for you, Marcus. I mean that. She's lucky to have someone like you. I'm lucky if she'll have me, Marcus admitted. I made mistakes with her too. Different mistakes, but mistakes nonetheless. Then learn from mine, Sandra said urgently. Don't hide who you are. Don't test her. Don't make her prove her worth because you're afraid of being hurt. Just love her honestly, openly, with everything you are. That's what you did with me, and it was beautiful. I was just too blind to see it. They sat in silence for a moment. Marcus felt the weight of 3 years lifting, not disappearing, but becoming something he could carry differently. I forgive you, he said finally. Not because what you did was okay, but because holding on to anger only hurts me. You made choices based on what you thought mattered. Now you know better. That's punishment enough. Sandra's tears spilled over. Thank you. That's more grace than I deserve. We all need grace sometimes. Marcus stood. I hope things get better for your family. Genuinely. But this is goodbye, Sandra. Our chapter is closed. I know. She stood too. Be happy, Marcus. Be gloriously, completely happy. And tell your nurse she's getting the best man I've ever known. Marcus nodded and walked away, Jennifer falling into step beside him. That was big of you, Jennifer said once they were in the car. Isabella taught me that, Marcus replied. Kindness, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Speaking of Isabella. Jennifer pulled out her phone. She called the office yesterday. Asked if you were doing okay. Marcus's heart leaped. She did. She cares about you, Marcus. She's just scared. Give her a little more time. That evening, Marcus received a text from Patrick again. Family dinner Sunday. Isabella will be there. Come if you want. No pressure. Just suya and laughter. You're always welcome. Patrick. Marcus stared at the message for a long time. An invitation. Not from Isabella directly, but from her family. A door left open, not slammed shut. He typed back, "What time?" The response came immediately, 6 p.m. Bring your appetite and your real self. Nothing else matters here. Marcus smiled for the first time in 2 weeks. Sunday. He had until Sunday to figure out how to be completely, authentically himself. No masks, no roles, no defenses. Just Marcus. The man who'd lost everything and gained the chance to rebuild it right. That night, he made a decision. No more hiding. No more testing. When he saw Isabella on Sunday, he'd lay everything bare. His fears, his failures, his hopes. And then he'd let her decide, freely and fully informed, if the real Marcus Johnson was someone she could love. It was terrifying. It was necessary. It was the only way forward. What should Marcus say to Isabella at the family dinner? How would you handle this situation? Drop your comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Sunday arrived with typical Lagos humidity, thick air that promised rain but hadn't yet delivered. Marcus changed clothes 3 times before settling on simple jeans and a casual shirt. No designer labels. No expensive watch. Just him. He drove himself to Isabella's family home in Yaba, deliberately leaving the Mercedes at his estate and taking a modest Toyota instead. Not because he was hiding anymore, but because he wanted to arrive as the man they'd first welcomed, the one who'd sat on cramped balconies and laughed at Patrick's terrible jokes. The compound was already alive with activity when he arrived. Children playing football in the narrow space between buildings, women cooking over outdoor grills, men gathered around a portable speaker playing highlife music. The smell of suya, jollof rice, and fried plantain filled the air. Patrick spotted him first. "Marcus. You came." He pulled Marcus into a bone-crushing hug. "Come, come. Everyone's been waiting. Everyone knows." Marcus asked nervously. "That you're some big CEO billionaire?" Patrick laughed. "Of course we know. It's been all over the news. But you think that matters to us? My brother, we knew you before the world knew. That's the Marcus we care about." They wove through the courtyard toward a long table set up under a faded canopy. Isabella's mother, Mama Joy, was arranging plates, a woman in her 60s with Isabella's same warm eyes and infectious laugh. "Marcus." She abandoned the plates and embraced him. "Welcome, welcome. You've been away too long. We thought maybe you'd forgotten about us now that everyone knows you're important." "Never," Marcus said, meaning it. "This place feels more like home than anywhere else." "Good answer." Mama Joy beamed. "Now sit, sit. Isabella is inside helping Gozi with the pepper soup. She'll be out soon." The dinner progressed with the same chaotic warmth Marcus remembered. Multiple conversations happening simultaneously, children weaving between adults, food passed hand to hand, laughter erupting at random moments. It was messy and loud and perfect. Isabella appeared carrying a steaming pot, and time seemed to slow. She wore a simple Ankara dress, her hair in braids, no makeup. She was the most beautiful thing Marcus had ever seen. Their eyes met across the courtyard. She gave him a small, tentative smile. Hope bloomed in his chest. After dinner, as the family settled into conversation and someone brought out a guitar, Isabella approached Marcus. "Walk with me." They left the noise behind, walking slowly through the neighborhood streets as dusk settled over the city. For several minutes, neither spoke. "I've been thinking," Isabella finally said, "about what you told me. About your ex-wife, about why you hid your wealth, about everything." Marcus's heart hammered. And I realized I was being unfair. Not about wanting honesty, that's valid. But about not understanding why you were scared. Isabella stopped walking, turning to face him. "You were hurt, Marcus. Deeply, terribly hurt by people who should have valued you. You built walls to protect yourself. That's not evil or manipulative. That's human. But I should have trusted you sooner." "Yes," she agreed. "You should have. But I also should have given you more grace when you finally told the truth. Instead, I made it about me, my hurt feelings, my wounded pride. I didn't consider that your vulnerability in that moment was actually a gift." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "You had every right to be upset. Maybe. But rights and righteousness aren't always the same thing." Isabella reached for his hand. "My father used to say that love means choosing to understand someone's pain even when they've caused you pain. I forgot that lesson. I'm sorry." "You're apologizing to me?" Marcus laughed in disbelief. "Isabella, I'm the one who—" "We both made mistakes," she interrupted gently. "You hid your truth out of fear. I rejected your truth out of hurt. But underneath all that, there's still something real. Something worth fighting for. At least, I think there is. If you're willing." "Willing?" Marcus pulled her closer. Isabella, these 2 weeks without you have been torture. I've closed billionaire deals and felt nothing. I've resolved legal nightmares and barely noticed. Because none of it mattered without you. You make me want to be better, not richer or more powerful, but kinder, more honest, more human. Then be that, Isabella said simply. Be the man who bought me coffee when I was falling apart. Be the man who ate street food and called it perfect. Be the man who sat with my family and didn't care that we had nothing fancy to offer. That's the Marcus I fell in love with. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just you. I am him, Marcus promised. The money is it's just circumstances. It doesn't define me. But it's part of your life, Isabella said practically. And if we're going to do this, really do this, I need to understand what that means. Your world is so different from mine. Will I fit? Will I lose myself trying to keep up? Marcus took both her hands. Here's what I learned from my disaster with Sandra. The money doesn't matter if the foundation is wrong. She wanted wealth. Her parents wanted status. None of them actually wanted me. But you. You wanted the broke accountant version of me. You were happy with suya and sunset walks. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. But your life, the business, the social obligations, the public scrutiny, can be managed, Marcus assured her. I don't have to attend every gala or schmooze every investor. I can build boundaries. I can protect what matters. And what matters, Isabella, is this. Us. Building something real together, on a foundation of honesty and genuine love. Isabella was quiet for a moment, and Marcus held his breath. Okay, she finally said. Okay. Okay, let's try. For real this time. No secrets, no tests, no hiding. She squeezed his hands. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll never use your money to solve my problems without asking first. I need to know I'm your partner, not your project. I need to keep my independence, my work, my purpose. Can you do that? Yes, Marcus said immediately. I don't want to change you, Isabella. I want to build a life with you, whatever that looks like. She smiled then, fully and freely, and Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Peace. Genuine, complete peace. So what now? Isabella asked. Now. Marcus grinned. Now we go back to your family's dinner and eat too much plantain and listen to your uncle tell those terrible stories about his youth in the village. And after that, we take it one day at a time. I caught you properly. No pretense, no games. Just honest connection. And eventually, if you'll have me, I'd like to build a future together. One that combines my resources with your compassion. Maybe that pediatric clinic you dream about? Maybe medical programs for underserved communities? We could do so much good together, Isabella. One day at a time, Isabella repeated, but her eyes sparkled with possibility. Don't get ahead of yourself, Marcus Johnson. They walked back hand in hand, returning to the warm chaos of family dinner. Patrick saw them first and let out a whoop of celebration. Aha! Look who's holding hands. I knew it. Mama, they've settled their trouble. The whole family erupted in applause and laughter. Mama Joy pulled them both into a hug. Thank God. Marcus, you'll stay for pepper soup, yes? And tomorrow you'll come for breakfast? And next week? Mama, give them space. Ngozi laughed. They just reconciled. But Marcus didn't mind the interference. This was what family felt like. Messy, involved, overwhelming, and absolutely perfect. So different from Sandra's family, where every interaction had been a transaction, where love came with conditions and price tags. Here he was just Marcus. And that was enough. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a newly constructed medical clinic in one of Lagos's poorest neighborhoods. The building gleamed with fresh paint, state-of-the-art equipment filling exam rooms, a full pharmacy stocked and ready. Above the entrance, the sign read, Hope Medical Center, providing quality healthcare for all. Isabella stood beside him, tears streaming down her face. It's perfect, she whispered. Marcus, it's absolutely perfect. You're perfect, he corrected, pulling her close. This is just bricks and equipment. You're the one who'll bring it to life. The grand opening drew a massive crowd, community members, local officials, media, and Marcus's business associates. Jennifer had managed the construction project, ensuring every detail met Isabella's specifications. Patrick had organized community outreach. Mama Joy had cooked enough food to feed everyone twice over. But the moment Marcus treasured most came at the end of the day, after the crowds had dispersed, when it was just him and Isabella standing in the empty waiting room. Do you know what the real wealth is? Isabella asked, leaning against him. Tell me. This. People caring for people. Resources used to heal instead of hoard. Love that multiplies instead of divides. She turned to face him. You could have spent your money on mansions and yachts and private jets. Instead, you built this. You saw my dream and made it reality. That's the man I love, Marcus. Not the billionaire, but the man with a billion-naira heart. Marcus kissed her forehead. I had good teachers. Your family showed me what really matters. You showed me who I want to be. And who's that? Someone who uses his blessings to bless others. Someone who values character over cash. Someone who knows that the best investment isn't in stocks or real estate. It's in people, in communities, in futures we build together. Isabella pulled out a small velvet box from her pocket. Marcus's eyes widened. Are you proposing? Isabella grinned. Not exactly. But when you eventually propose to me, and you better, Marcus Johnson, I want you to use this. She opened the box, revealing a simple silver band. It was my father's wedding ring. The only valuable thing he owned. But it represented 50 years of faithful love, of choosing each other every day, of building wealth that had nothing to do with money. Marcus took the ring with trembling hands. You want me to propose with your father's ring? I want you to understand what it represents. That's the kind of marriage I want. Built on commitment, not cash. Can you give me that? Yes, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. I can give you that. I want to give you that. Then keep the ring safe. And when the time is right, when you're ready to promise me forever, that's when you use it. Marcus slipped the ring back into the box and tucked it carefully into his pocket, right over his heart. It won't be long, he promised. I already know you're my forever, Isabella. I know I'm your forever, she teased. But I want you to be absolutely sure. No rush, no pressure. Just certainty. That evening, Marcus received an unexpected email. It was from Sandra, brief and simple. I saw the news about the medical clinic. It's beautiful, Marcus. She's beautiful. You've built the life you always deserved, one based on purpose, not possessions. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like, even though I learned the lesson too late. Be happy. You've earned it. Sandra. Marcus read it twice, then archived it without responding. That chapter was truly closed now, replaced by something infinitely better. His phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. Dinner at my place? Mama's making your favorite, egusi soup and pounded yam. Patrick wants to challenge you to a chess rematch. You in? Marcus smiled and typed back. Always. I'll bring dessert. Your presence is dessert enough, came her reply, followed by a heart emoji. Marcus drove to Yoba, the father's ring in his pocket, Isabella's laughter waiting at the end of the journey, and a future stretching before him that was richer than any bank account could measure. He'd lost a wife who valued his wallet. He'd found a woman who valued his worth. And in the end, that made all the difference. Epilogue. 1 year later, Marcus Johnson and Isabella married in a small ceremony at Hope Medical Center, surrounded by family, friends, and patients whose lives the clinic had changed. Marcus wore his father-in-law's ring, the simple silver band that represented everything wealth couldn't buy. The Okafors sent a card but didn't attend. Sandra had moved to Abuja, working to rebuild her life and reputation. Dennis Williams served 18 months for fraud, emerging humbled and repentant. But Marcus rarely thought about any of them anymore. His focus was on the future, expanding Hope Medical Center to 3 additional neighborhoods, launching scholarship programs for nursing students, building a life with Isabella that was rich in every way that truly mattered. When people asked him the secret to happiness, Marcus always gave the same answer. Find someone who loves you when they think you have nothing. Then spend your life proving they were right. You had everything all along. You just needed someone who could see it. And every time Isabella heard him say it, she'd squeeze his hand and whisper, "I see you, Marcus Johnson. I've always seen you." That, Marcus knew, was the greatest wealth of all. Thank you so much for joining us on Marcus and Isabella's journey. What did you think of the ending? Would you have done things differently? Drop your comments below and let us know. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Stories by Stoner for more emotional family dramas, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next story. Share this with someone who needs to hear that true love values character over cash. Until next time, stay blessed, stay kind, and remember, real wealth is measured by the heart, not the bank account. This is Stories by Stoner, signing off.